It seems the weather will be like this all day tomorrow after all. This makes the good weather we had earlier feel like a lie. George, Aniki and I were killing time in front of the parlor television. Yeah, that was kind of beautiful, yeah. At that point, Jessica returned. Her face was still blank, but it looked like she'd calmed down a little since we'd last seen her. Is Maria still in front of the portrait? Nope. She just came back and she's sleeping over there on the sofa. It's getting pretty late for her after all. Yeah, what time is it now? Oh, thanks. Every time I ask something or look something up, the game just tells me in the next sentence, apparently. Looking at the clock, I saw it was a little past 10 p.m. Even if we were planning to stay up all night, it was about time to head back to our room. Well, my mom did have a room prepared for us in the mansion. The game delivers, yeah. What will we do? I'd rather head back to the guest house. Going by what we saw of our parents, I think it'd be better if we weren't in the mansion. I agree. Feels like they're telling us kids to mind our own business and stay out of the way. Let's be good little boys and girls and do that. As we were talking about this, Aunt Rosa came into the parlor. She was looking all over restlessly, probably trying to find Maria. Aunt Rosa, if you're looking for Maria, she's over there on the sofa. Thank you. My, she's out cold. We must move her to her bed. If you'd like, I'll carry her over to her bed. Thanks, that would be wonderful. Are you all heading back to the guest house? Or are you going to stay in the room Natsuhine-san had prepared here? No, I really like walking through the rain. We were just talking about that. We just decided to head over to the guest house. I see. Then could I ask you to take Maria with you? I'd feel much more reassured if she stays with all of your cousins. Behind those words, she seemed to be concealing some regret that the adults, herself included, had deeply hurt Maria's feelings. Yeah, especially you, since you slapped her in the face several times. Leave it to us, Aunt Rosa. After all, we do have an expert at comforting Maria with us. Are you talking about me? Oh, I couldn't do it myself. We'll need everyone together. That's right. Battler, weren't you the one who hit it off with Maria when you were messing around earlier? As we said this, Aunt Rosa smiled, looking truly happy. Thank you, everyone. It looks like our meeting will last until very late, so while I'm sorry to burden you like this, I'll be counting on you all to take care of Maria. Yeah, we got it. Hey, Maria, are you sound asleep? We're going back to the guest house. Oh, I'm not even sure who's saying that. Maybe it's Battler. Maria muttered something indistinct, rolled over, and fell back asleep. It looked like she was sleeping deeply. She's really out cold. I'd hate to wake her. Right, I'll carry her. Maria's body was much lighter than it looked. I lifted her up and put her on George Aniki's back. It was raining hard outside, and Aniki couldn't hold an umbrella and carry Maria at the same time. It looked like Aunt Rosa would come with us as far as the guest house to help out. However, when she heard Uncle Klaus's voice call out to her, she had no choice but to return. Oh. Now that's a problem. I have to go back now. Is everyone returning to the guest house? After we left the hall on the way to the entrance, the door to the servant room opened and Shannon-chan stepped out. It has grown very dark, so allow me to guide you. Or do you have flashlight in your eyes? Like a robot? That would be cool. That would be great, Shannon-chan. George-kun is going to carry Maria there. Could you hold an umbrella for him? Yes, certainly. Shannon-chan brought umbrellas for each of us and a flashlight to guide the way. As we opened the front door, the downpour was quite terrific. It looked like we wouldn't have any spare time to take a pleasant walk and enjoy the nighttime rose garden. Yeah, you don't say. What? You didn't really expect to do that, did you? Aniki, is she too heavy? Want me to carry her? It's okay. I can at least carry Maria-chan. I'm truly grateful. Please take care of Maria. Sure, you got it. Then I guess this is good night, Aunt Rosa. Then I will see them over there and return here. Yes, please. I'm pretty hoarse today, for some reason. I'm gonna use one of those. Hope you don't hear too much of it. Aunt Rosa watched us leave. Maria, I'm sorry for everything. Rosa's mumbling voice didn't reach the person in question, nor any of the kids, but disappeared beneath the sound of the rain. After cutting through the rainy rose garden, we arrived at the guest house. If only I'd applied for the position of Maria carrier. What? Why? Then I would have gotten a chance to have Shannon chance you. Oh, dude. Can he please be the one who gets killed first? That's not why I did it. It's a misunderstanding. I thought that if I didn't walk like this, George Summer would get all wet. But now I got all wet. Oh, sorry. Come on, quit babbling and go in. After being urged on by Jessica, we folded up our umbrellas and went into the guest house. Has anyone gotten their clothes wet? I can bring some towels if you want. You don't need to worry about us that much. Thanks, Shannon John. Oh, that's right. We were planning to play cards or something. No, Mortal Kombat. Would you care to join us for a bit? Huh? Who had the night shift on today's schedule? I believe we had a special schedule during the family conference. Also, I think a few alterations have been made, so I will go and check. Wait, if you have to go all the way back to the mansion to find out, don't force yourself. Oh, that's all right. I can find out from the servant room in the guest house. Please excuse me for a short while. Shannon-chan gave a quick bow and went into the guest house's servant room. The rest of us headed for the cousin room and decided to put Maria to bed for the time being. Maria was sleeping very deeply and there was absolutely no sign of her eyes opening. For now, we'd get some soft drinks out of the room's refrigerator and drink those while playing cards or something. Uh-oh. Oh. Kanon-kun? And you're here too, Genji-sama. What has happened with tonight's shift? Klaus-sama has given an order. He made some sizable changes to this shift schedule. Indeed. Goda-san now has the night shift at the mansion. Oh no, not that douchebag. Shannon and Kanon have the night shift in the guest house. Kumasawa-san and I have been ordered to sleep in the guest house. Just now a phone call came saying that once you arrived, you are also to remain here for the rest of the night. That doesn't sound fishy at all, I swear. Huh? That certainly is a sizable change. The shifts at the guest house and the mansion have been completely reversed, haven't they? Originally, Shannon and Kanon had been assigned the night shift in the mansion, while the night shift in the guest house, where all of the relatives were staying, had been assigned to Goda, who had an abundance of experience in entertaining. Yeah, he also has an abundance of experience in being a fucking dick. Kumasawa should have been sleeping at the guest house, while Genji should have been sleeping in the mansion. However, it seemed that Klaus had suddenly ordered that the schedule be modified. The shifts at the guest house and the mansion had all been reversed, and Genji was spending the night in the guest house. It's probably because of Beatrice Summer's letter. Why probably? After such a mysterious letter appeared, it was only natural that Klaus Summer would suspect one of us. Ah, okay, I see, that makes sense. We served directly under the master, so Klaus Summer tried as best he could to keep us far away from the family conference. Genji, Shannon, and Kanon were all permitted to wear the Yoshinomiya family crest, the one-winged eagle. I always want to read that as one-winged angel because of Final Fantasy VII. As the servants who served directly under Kinzo. Of course, since they were working for the Yoshinomiya family, they had to obey anyone's orders, but their only boss was Kinzo. Since only Kinzo had the right to employ them, even Klaus could not have them dismissed of his own accord. Because of this, Klaus and the others often viewed these servants as Kinzo's underlings and shunned them. And in fact, Kinzo seldom let anyone other than them enter his study. This sudden shift change was probably a clear expression of the sense of mistrust that had caused. Considering the time Kinzo had left to live, this would definitely be the last family conference before the problem of the inheritance came up. On top of that, the mysterious letter that claimed to be from Beatrice had dropped in out of the blue. Klaus definitely wanted to keep Kinzo's loyal subjects away from the table of such a delicate and important discussion. Okay.
If you would excuse me, I will go rest.
Okay, do that.
If anything happens, call me immediately. Our guest tonight is a special case after all.
What do you mean, our guest tonight? Uh-oh.
Yes, certainly, Genji-sama.
Genji nodded back, went behind a screen. Auf den schwarzen Balken. Der ist doch auf dem schwarzen Balken rechts im Bild. Oder was meinst du? Genji nodded back, went behind a screen, took off his jacket, and slowly began to relax after a day's worth of tension. The ones who just returned now, were they the children? Yes. The other relatives are having a conference in the mansion. It looked like it would drag on for quite some time. Then we've got it easy. It's already this late and there's this weather. The rest of the relatives will probably spend the night in their rooms in the mansion. Yes, probably. I'm only saying this because Genji-sama isn't around. But I'm a little happy I was sent to the guest house, I guess. You mean that the chat doesn't disappear? Because the whole disappearing thing, I only said that during full screen games like Zero Escape. Because there I had to have the chat over the game. And so I wanted it to disappear after a short amount of time. I didn't change that for Umineko because of the very small chance that somebody could enter the chat and write a spoiler. And then the spoiler would be written there for all eternity if I make the settings like that. So just because I'm afraid of somebody possibly spoiling something, I didn't change that yet. Oh? Why is that? Because you can stay away from Madam and Eva, some of those bullies? Or do you have another reason? It's not as though I have another reason, and especially not George. I see. Then let's do our best together with our night shift. I'm counting on you, Nason. Just now I was asked to go to the children's room and play with them. Shannon hung her head apologetically, gazing at Kanon uncertainly. Kanon didn't try to meet her eyes and spoke curtly as he sighed. It looked like he didn't plan on indulging his sister. Quotes, unquote sister. You can't. You're assigned to the night shift. Besides which, it isn't necessary for furniture like us to respond to an invitation to play. You understand, right? Yes, I do understand. Aw, come on. Let her have some fun. Shannon's shoulders drooped slightly. She had already expected that Kanon, a stickler for rules, would say something like that, but she still seemed a little discouraged. As Kanon flipped through a logbook, he spoke without facing Shannon. That means the children will be waiting for you. You'll have to apologize and tell them you have the night shift and won't be able to stay with them. Go and come back. Yes. I'll go apologize and come back. Shannon hurriedly stood from her seat before her brother's mood could change and flew out of the servant room after giving a quick bow. As he watched her go, Kanon took a single deep breath. Genji's voice came from beyond the screen.
Kanon, I will be here so you can go too.
Genji-sama. Shannon was the only one called. It's not as though I was invited.
That is only because you were not there at the time. If you had been, you would have been invited as well. It is good to play as a child from time to time.
No, such a thing is not necessary for me. Human children may have a need to play, but we are furniture. I'm telling you, he's... maybe Kinzo actually had some furniture and he made it turn it into people? Who knows?
Is that so?
Nesan is also furniture. Even if she pretends to be a person, it will only hurt her later. I understand that, so I try not to get too close to people, that's all. I'm telling you, they're not people. They're something else. Genji did not say anything after that. After a while, he stood up and used a pot of hot water to make powdered cocoa, serving some to Cannon as well. Wait, he made cocoa with water? What kind of barbarian are you? You gotta use milk. Is that for real? I had no clue. Dumbass, you're too loud. You'll wake Maria up. Bella was so surprised that he yelled obnoxiously and scattered his cards everywhere. His voice caused Maria to turn over once, but she soon fell back into a deep sleep. Very watery hot chocolate. I actually had somebody who did that as well, made hot chocolate with water instead of milk. But if I remember correctly, it was not very good. I mean, it wasn't horrible either. It still was chocolate. But still, gotta use fucking milk, man. Sorry. Jessica gave him a jab and he lowered his voice. Still, seriously, now that you mention it, they really did have that kind of atmosphere, didn't they? Ah, now I see. So George Aniki is... Oh, they're talking about George and Shannon again? George couldn't be seen anywhere in the room. A short while ago, when Shannon came into the room, George suddenly said that he'd forgotten something in the mansion and needed to go back and get it. Yeah, right. Shannon said she would guide him, just like she had on the way to the guest house, and the two of them departed together. Oh, for some, action. Well, there's actually been signs of it for a while now. Questions about hobbies and favorite things. I always thought it was a bit much for a passing interest, and look what's happened now. Come to think of it, I get the feeling George Aniki's always been overly nice to Shannon-chan. Now I get it. Careless whisper. According to the weather report, it looks like it'll be at its worst tonight. It also seems it'll last all day tomorrow, though it should get a little better. Really? Then maybe the boat won't arrive until the day after tomorrow. I hope that doesn't interfere with your work on Monday. I already knew the typhoon would be coming beforehand. Just in case, I made sure I didn't have any plans for Monday, so it's okay. I may not look it, but I really am the type who can plan ahead in his schedule. George puffed out his chest, acting proud. Compared to the calm appearance George always had as the oldest cousin, he now looked amusingly like a little kid. Shannon chuckled at this abrupt contrast. It's no surprise you're so well prepared, as someone who'll bring prosperity to his company someday. Well, making a company prosper really is a tough job. Money isn't the only thing that's important. I learned that well when studying under my father. Making a company prosper is like owning a castle and leading your subordinates. My dad really loves reading about great leaders during the warring periods of Japan, a hobby that's probably influenced by the fact that he shares Toyotomi Hideyoshi's name. Oh, I didn't even think of that, but he does. Much of his philosophy on managing business comes from talking about them. Did you know? Takeda Shingen, who was feared as the leader of the strongest cavalry corps in the warring periods, started out with his troops in complete disarray and didn't have the kind of strong leadership necessary to utilize them well. Is that true? It's a little unexpected. In order to unite his troops, Shingen showed his excellent leadership in many ways. For example, when a soldier succeeded well in battle, he would immediately honor them with a medal. Normally, that kind of thing was put off until after the war, and they were all awarded at once. Comparing leading a company to warfare. It's kind of a stretch, but I guess I get what he's trying to say. He continued this diligently while on the field of battle, and immediately showing his appreciation for his troops' military exploits, motivated them in an extremely significant fashion. Also, whenever one of his troops was brought down by an illness, he would be the first to rush off to them and care for them, and so on. Takeda Shingen was just the man who led the strongest cavalry corps in the warring period. That wasn't just the man who... He was the person who cared the most for his troops throughout that era. And because he was that kind of person, all of his troops went along with him. The truth was Shannon had already heard this story several years ago, but whenever a discussion of his father led to this sort of topic, George would always glow and look like he was having a great time. So Shannon just smiled without interrupting, urging him to continue. That's nice. Of course, in a capitalist world, money determines both your strengths and the height of your fortifications, but you can't build up a castle that could succeed in war by yourself. Such things can only be accomplished with the support of many subordinates by borrowing their strength. After understanding this, when I look at my father's back, I realize how immature I am. I can clearly see how much competition he had to overcome before building up all he has now. George-sama, you truly look up to your father. I'm jealous. Sorry, that's not how I meant it. I'm sorry, that's not how I meant it either. The two of them awkwardly looked at their feet. Shannon had no parents. Yeah, she had been brought up in an orphanage owned by Kinzo, called the Fukuin House, or maybe it was called the Create Beings Here House, because he just made some things there. I don't know. The fact that they keep calling them furniture kind of sounds like Kinzo just created them or something. And now they apparently grew up without parents in an orphanage that he owned. It makes it even more suspicious. Under the guidance of Kinzo, their honorary director, I read dictator for a minute there, but I probably wouldn't be too far off either. Under the guidance of Kinzo, their honorary director, the orphanage offered members who excelled a chance for on-the-job serving experience. If their efforts met with Kinzo's approval, they'd be able to leave the orphanage and work as servants for the Yoshidomiya family. Just made her out of 2 balloons. I mean, yeah, I can see where that thought came from. This was considered to be the highest honor for those who lived in the orphanage. Servants from the Fukuin house all took names with the character on in them while they served. Because of the house name. So Shannon wasn't her real name. See, there it is. Fukuin, the inn. The same went for Kanon. All of the members of the Fukuin house were orphans. At least they were all people who had been separated from their parents under special circumstances. Okay, maybe there are people after all. I don't know. We'll see. Because of this, the orphans had been taught to think of each other as their only family. That's why it seemed so natural to both of them when Kanon called Shannon his sister. And while both Shannon and Kanon were working in the mansion today, there were several other servants possessing the On character in their names, such as Manon and Lennon, John Lennon, who often worked in a rotation schedule. However, there were not many servants who stayed with the Ushidomiya family for long. It was standard for them to quit after 3 years. So you could probably say that Shannon, who had been working for 10 years, was a notable exception to the rule. Working as a servant for the Yoshidomiya family was a heavy burden to bear, but the pay wasn't bad at all. Working for a full 3 years would earn more than what was needed to enter mainstream society. That was why, even though the orphans realized what a harsh task working for the Yoshidomiya family was, they still hoped to be accepted. Maybe the fact that Shannon managed to continue working for 10 years wasn't because she had more willpower than the other servants. Maybe she'd gotten stuck working for 10 years because she didn't have the courage to say she wanted to quit. Well, that's kinda sad. Kinzo couldn't even trust his own blood relatives, and these excellent servants sent from the Fukuin house were the only ones he could rely on. IKEA orphanage for furniture. Because of that, Kinzo would sometimes allow them to wear the family crest as servants under his direct control and have them wear clothes to him. You've been working here for almost 10 years now, right? You must have saved up a lot of money by now. I wonder. It's not like there's anything in particular I'd like to buy. After all, a few million yen isn't enough to live off for the rest of your life. So the reason you've been working all this time wasn't to hit some target sum? Yes, that's right. I have nowhere to go outside this mansion. Oh, you could ask George. I'm sure he has a room for you. And I have been getting along well with Milady and the other young servants. Well, probably until fucking Gora, dickbag, showed up. The madam does scold me sometimes, but caring for the roses and cleaning the mansion is fun. But that can't be your entire life, Shannon-chan. No, Sayo... Oh, Sayo is her name. Sayo-chan. Shannon cast her eyes downwards when she heard her real name. She understood what George was trying to say and fell silent. There's something I've learned as I continue to study even after becoming an adult and a full-fledged member of society. A human's life is not as monotonous or short as we thought when we were kids. All school-aged kids have certain fears they can't shake. They wonder whether they'll live the rest of their lives like sleepy classes after a monotonous and boring school day, spending their time in a carefree laziness without anything interesting happening until it's all over. However, life is only like that for underage students. Compared to a human's life, the time they spend as students is nothing more than a blink of the eye, a period where they break through the shells of their immaturity. The inside of the shell might be a hot, suffocating and boring world, but the world beyond that shell is vast and filled with limitless possibilities. So far, your life has been trapped inside the shell called Shannon. I think you're under the mistaken impression that your life will continue like this forever. Shannon couldn't deny those words. She'd been unable to harbor any clear doubts about her lifestyle, and since she never had any hope or goals for changing herself, she had lazily continued living the way she always had. And if asked whether this life was satisfying, she wouldn't have been able to nod. She may have been intentionally averting her eyes from the truth. Without George's admonishments, she would have continued pretending not to notice as her real life slipped away bit by bit, neglected. George Summer, is it wrong for me to continue living this way?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, and by the way, didn't you break one of our rules just now? George immediately gave a strict answer, then broke out into a mischievous smile. What rule? Shannon already knew what she was being chided for, and she hung her head again, apparently embarrassed. Didn't you promise not to use... I thought it might be that. Didn't you promise not to use Summer when the two of us are alone? I couldn't obey that as a promise, but if it was an order, I would have to obey it, because I'm furniture.
Then it's an order.
Yes, certainly, George's son. As Shannon hung her head, her face red, she said George's name again, this time following it with son.
Yes, that's fine, Sayo John.
George smiled at Shannon, no, Sayo, to praise her small act of bravery. This short exchange alone made it clear how far back their relationship must have stretched. For a long while, the two talked as if the weather raging about them didn't even enter their thoughts. They talked about the many memories they'd built during their relationship that no one else knew about. Every once in a while, a flash of lightning would attempt to interrupt them, but this could sully neither the roses nor the time they spent blushing at each other. That was a nice scene as well. But usually nice scenes are soon followed by not so nice scenes. We'll see.
That's right. I have something I wanted to show you.
Zip. Now, what could it be? George, George, who had been speaking eloquently, suddenly started to stutter. Watching him, Shannon seemed to guess something. Uh-oh, what is it? A ring? George timidly searched through his pocket. Something got caught in the depths of his pocket, and just like the stuttering George, there is a Resident Evil MP3. Somebody cut a lot of voice files from Resident Evil together in a very suggestive way, and there was a line that was almost like what George just said. So anytime I read a line like that, I have to think of that. But okay, back to this. I'm gonna send it to you later. At least to some of you who I have in my contacts. George Emily searched in the pockets and took a little while to get it out. It was a very small box, okay? A small box covered in a deep blue velvet. That peculiar shape was enough to tell anyone what was resting inside. Oh? Is it a ring? Shannon had prepared her heart somewhat, certain beforehand that this was what he'd been planning, but even so, when she actually saw it, she couldn't avoid blushing once more. George opened the small box, took something out, and held it out for Shannon to take. I want you to take this. So, I've been thinking about... Where is it? I've been thinking about this line, on the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the two who are close. And when I thought about this for some more, I realized that it must mean that we will definitely get to know two people, at least, who will be very close. And then probably something terrible will happen. So this might be like it is setting up these two to be those two people, but who knows? Just throwing that out there. I couldn't accept something so valuable. You can't take it. No, I'm unworthy of such a thing. I'm sorry, I have a dirty mind sometimes, but it sounds a bit funny if you read it and think about something else. Sayo, this isn't a request. It's an order. Okay, thank you. Thank you for calling it a ring already. Take this ring, okay? If it's an order, I cannot disobey. Yeah. The real treasure, yeah, isn't it? Probably, yeah. Like at the end, it comes out the real treasure of the Shirumanga family is friendship, but by then everybody has killed each other, so well, shit. Yeah, that's right. Well done. Shannon, not wanting to show her bright red face, timidly accepted the ring from George's hand while still staring at the ground. That ring wasn't a simple accessory. It was a noble object, meant since ancient times to be offered to a special woman under special circumstances. Therefore, while George could order her to take it, he could not order anything beyond that. Anything beyond that would depend not on an order, but on Sayo's own will. So from here on, I'm not ordering you anymore. Sayo, I want you to give me your answer by tomorrow without using words. What? What do you mean without using words? How can she give you an answer then? I mean, she could write it down, sure. Or she could, punch you in the face if she means no. Or give you a big hug if she means yes. Yes, and suddenly it turns into an RPG. Do you understand?
How should I?
I won't order you any further, so this isn't an order. But a ring is something you put on your finger after all. Ah, okay, I see. Sure. Why didn't I think of that? She can just give him an answer without saying a word by either putting the ring on or throwing it away like Kinzo did with his. If you like it, you can just put it on any finger you choose. Shannon had only pretended not to know. She already understood what he wanted her to do, but she was standing at a huge crossroads of her life. Look how late it's gotten. Let's call it a day. George turned away from Shannon, acting just a bit bluntly. I could probably order you to wear it on your left hand. You might be timid and dependent enough to actually obey that kind of an order, but I want at least this last step to be done by your own will, Sayo. Understand? Yes. So that's my order. I want you to think about it well tonight and show me your answer tomorrow. Shannon nodded back. Today was the culmination of their many days spent together. This moment certainly hadn't come as a surprise to Shannon. We should be getting back to the guest house soon. If we take any longer, we'll make everyone worry about us. Oh, das war George. Oh, I'm sorry, I just remembered something I had to do in the mansion, so I have to go back to the mansion. At a time like this? Is that true? George stared into Shannon's face as he laughed mischievously. He definitely saw through Shannon's lie. However, when he saw how she felt, he could sort of understand that she might be so embarrassed that she'd want to be alone. So because George realized the meaning behind Shannon's lie, he accepted it. Uh-oh. The music is getting a bit creepier. No. Ah, don't scare me like that. What now, 11?